Hello friends, in this session we'll talk about forms of business. We'll start with the simplest form of business organization, that is sole proprietorship. Let's first understand meaning of sole proprietorship. Sole means single and proprietorship means ownership. It means only one person is the owner of the business. Thus, the business organization in which single person owns, manages, and controls all the activities is known as sole proprietorship. The individual who owns and runs the business is known as sole proprietor, or at times sole trader also. Let's briefly discuss few features of sole proprietorship so as to understand it in a better way. First and foremost, when we say sole proprietorship, it is single ownership. That means the form of business organization is owned only by a single person. That means he or she brings the capital in the business either from his own wealth or from borrowed capital. And at times this becomes a limitation also, because there is a limitation in terms of how much a single person can bring to run the business. Another is one-man control. The sole proprietor is the only owner of the firm and he has full control over its business activities. All the rights, responsibilities, and decisions are in the hands of owner himself. So at times when you want to exercise a better control, this form of organization is actually a better choice. When we talk about sole proprietorship, one feature is, which at times is a problem also, that is undivided risk. As it is sole proprietorship, as you are the only one, the risk is also on the shoulders of single person only. The proprietor is the sole beneficiary of all the profits, but at the same time, if losses occur in the business, then he alone has to bear all the risk also. And that is why we say it is undivided risk. There is no one with whom you can share your loss. You have to bear all the loss or risk. There is no separate entity of the firm. In sole proprietorship, unlike partnership and company, there is no separate legal entity. In the eyes of law, there is no distinction between the owner and his business. That means in case of loss, the sole proprietor is liable to pay the due. And that is what I was talking about, unlimited liability. In sole proprietorship, the owner has unlimited liability. That is, the proprietor is personally responsible to pay all the debts. If I say in other words, if in the business funds are not sufficient to pay the debt, then the personal assets of the owner may be used to pay off all the liabilities, which is not the case when we talk about company, for example. The best part when we talk about sole proprietorship is, it is the simplest form of organization, because there is almost no legal formalities are required to start the business. Obviously, in some cases, some licensing or certification is required. For example, a person is starting pharmacy business, he or she may require drug license. Otherwise, in sole proprietorship, as such, there is no legal requirement. Same is true when you want to close down the form of business also. Sole proprietorship can be closed down at any time on the discretion of the sole proprietor. Let's understand some of the advantage of sole proprietorship. As we just discussed in characteristics, the main advantage is that it is very easy to start or even to wind up sole proprietorship. Because unlike other business forms, there is very little paperwork and formalities with regard to authorities. As a result, proprietors do not have to wait long for permission to carry on a business. And that means they can start immediately. Another advantage for sole proprietorship is the proprietors have full control over all functioning of the firm, including production, sales, finance, marketing, even personal recruitment, etc., etc. At times, this freedom only encourages many entrepreneurs to start with sole proprietorship because success means personal success. Whatever you want, that is all yours. So if I put it in another word, in sole proprietorship, the proprietor, the entrepreneur have direct motivation. Because as it is not a separate entity, whatever you gain or whatever your firm gain, that is all your gain only. The sole proprietor, the owner gets 100% profits. He is not going to share it with anyone. As I just said, sole proprietorship is preferred at times because there are almost negligible government regulation when we talk about sole proprietorship. There are many more benefits just because it is sole proprietorship, just because you are the only one person who is handling the business activity. That means there is no issue of coordination. You are the only one, so no question of coordination. You are the single person. That means you can make quick and prompt decision. You have better control over all the activity and even flexibility also. As you are the only one, what business to be done. If you want, you can close it down also. You needn't to require to ask anyone. So you have a lot of flexibility also. Business secrets are easily maintained because there are no partners, there are no shareholders. You are the only one who know all the secrets. And that at times give you that opportunity to build personal relationship with your clients also. So there are so many benefits of sole proprietorship. As a result, it is one of the most popular form of ownership. Obviously, it is not free from certain limitations also. The biggest problem with sole proprietorship is that the amount of capital one can bring. As it is sole proprietorship, as it is single person who is doing the business activity, there is a limitation. The owners put their own resources when they are starting the business. And there are limitations in terms of how much financial resources they can bring, even from credit base out of their relationships. Another limitation is that to bring more money, proprietor cannot sell shares or interest in their business to raise money like they can do in the case of company. Another problem is that over here, the liability of the proprietor is unlimited. What does that mean? As there is no legal separation between the owner and the business, all the debts, all the obligations are with the proprietor. That means if the business cannot satisfy its obligation, creditors may pursue the proprietor's personal assets in order to be repaid. So you are liable to pay even from your personal wealth, because there is no separate legal entity, as I said, which is the case when we talk about company as a form of organization. Another problem is when we say it is a sole proprietorship, it is owned by, managed by a single person, and at times that becomes difficult because you cannot be good in everything, but you are required to manage everything: production, finance, marketing, HR. At times it becomes difficult. The proprietor is required to make good enough decisions in all business areas. As I said, you cannot be expert in all these areas. That means if the owner does not have enough knowledge or skills in a particular area, their decisions are likely to be flawed, which ultimately affects performance of the firm. Obviously, you can hire few employees with this skill under you, but then it might be an expense. There are other limitations also. Just because there is a single person, there is a lot of uncertainty over its future. In the case of death of that person, what would happen with the firm? As we all know, in the case of company, irrespective of person, promoters, company has perpetual succession, not in the case of sole proprietorship. Another problem is that as it is start from the person's personal wealth, there is a limitation in terms of how much capital he can bring. And that is why the sole proprietorship beyond a limit cannot expand. Actually, the logic is that when you start with small sole proprietorship. When you want to expand, you go with partnership, cooperatives, or company. That is how it is. But then, obviously, sole proprietorship cannot go beyond a particular size. That is largely because of limited amount of capital which you can have. Still, sole proprietorship is common, preferred by many. Let's understand under what circumstances it works. Sole proprietorships work well when capital required is small and the risk is also less. It is suitable when quick decisions are important and when personal attention to customers is required. Under these circumstances, sole proprietorship is more preferred. As I said, when you start the business, you want to take lesser risk, you want to do it at a smaller scale, then you start with sole proprietorship. You start earning profit, you want to expand, then you choose another form of organization. So, thank you. I hope this will help you.